Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today to continue talking about this book called Luke. There's a lot of interesting things in here, and today is one that's really kind of different. So let's get to it and see what it says. It's Luke chapter 16, beginning with verse 19. And I'll read for a while, and I'll talk, and then I'll finish reading. How about that? Jesus said, There was a certain rich man who was splendidly clothed in purple and fine linen, and who lived each day in luxury. At his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, who was covered with sores. As Lazarus lay there longing for scraps from the rich man's table, the dogs would come and lick his sores open. Finally, the poor man died and was carried by the angels to sit beside Abraham at the heavenly banquet. The rich man also died and was buried, and he went to the place of the dead. There in torment, he saw Abraham in the far distance with Lazarus at his side. The rich man shouted, Father Abraham, have some pity. Send Lazarus over here to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue. I am in anguish in these flames. Well, let's stop here. The picture is of two guys who died. One who lived in luxury. It says he wore purple. Purple was a special color in the Bible days. It was a color for royalty, or really, really special. It was very valuable. And only the very most affluent people could even think about having some. And then there was a poor man. Now, the rich man, he had everything. The poor man tried to live off of the scraps from the rich man, but even the dogs took them. And then they died. Now, the one thing's for sure, everybody dies. I'm going to die. You're going to die. People ahead of me or before us have died. The people after me are going to die. Every one of us is going to leave this earth. Now, the question is what happens after that? And that's where it gets a little bit murky for some folks, and different religions teach different things. But in Christianity, we teach about heaven. So it says that when the poor man died, he was ushered up to sit beside Abraham at the heavenly table. That's a good picture. Eating is a sign of friendship. You don't eat with people that you don't know. You don't eat with strangers. It's really hard to do that. And so he gets welcomed at the banquet. But it says that Lazarus was buried and went to the land of the dead. Now, in the Old Testament, it doesn't talk much about hell. In fact, hardly mentions it at all. It talks about the land of the dead. Sheol is the word for it. And somehow the land of the dead was just kind of yuck. In fact, Abraham tells us here that, or this story tells us that the rich man was suffering with great pain and other kinds of things. And he shouted to Abraham. See, the land of the dead could see over to Abraham's table. We don't know if that was reversal or not. So he could see what he wasn't getting and where he wasn't being, and that was in contrast to how it was when he was alive, where he was treated special. Everything went his way. And so he says, please, Abraham, shouts at him, send Lazarus over with a little bit of water. And then we pick up the story here, and it says, but Abraham said to him, this is the rich man, son, remember that during your lifetime you had everything you wanted, and Lazarus had nothing. So now he is being comforted, and you are in anguish. And besides, there's a great chasm separating us. No one can cross over to you from here, and no one can cross over to us from where you are. So we see here that the rich man's in big trouble. During his lifetime, he had some choices to make, and evidently he made them. But after his death, his choices are sealed, and he can't change them. And I think the same is true for you and for me. We make choices in our lives. During this world, we can make choices. We can make good ones, bad ones, make ones that are roundly successful, make ones that are big failures. We can choose an awful lot. Now, some of you are saying, well, I didn't choose this life. Well, maybe you didn't, but kind of maybe you did. Not so much that you chose to be miserable, if that's where you are, but there are things you can do to get out of it. And maybe you haven't chosen those yet. But in any case, here's what the rich man says after Abraham tells him there's this huge chasm. You can't get here, and no one from here can get to you. Then the rich man said, please, Father Abraham, at least send him to my father's home. For I have 5 brothers, and I want them to warn them so they don't end up in this place of torment. But Abraham said, Moses and the prophets have warned them. Your brothers can read what they wrote. The rich man replied, no, Father Abraham, but if someone is sent to them from the dead, they will repent of their sins and turn to God. Now, here's the key. It's pretty clear from this statement that the rich man and his brothers were not walking with God. They chose not to. Like I said, in this life, we all make choices. And so when the rich man realizes the torment is in, he wants someone to tell his family. That's admirable. But Abraham says, somebody already has, and they didn't listen. And then the final statement here is, but Abraham said, if they won't listen to Moses and the prophets, they won't be persuaded, even if someone rises from the dead. What he's saying here, if they won't listen to what's already known, then they're not going to respond. So what do we get out of this that's encouraging? Well, first off, that there is a wonderful place when this world ends. There really is. I don't know exactly what it looks like. And the Bible talks about some of it, but I really doubt it has streets of gold because I don't think gold's going to matter much when you get to heaven. But if you want to think of it that way, that's okay. But on the other hand, there are other places besides heaven, and those places aren't so good. And our future is determined by our choices. It says here, they will repent, the man says, the rich man, his family would repent and turn to God. Well, see, they already know to do that, and they're not doing it. You and I already know. We know that there's something other than the ways of the world. It's obvious if you just take a minute and look at it. And in this country, we've heard a lot about Jesus and Christianity. It's not a strange thing. Now, if we go to a Muslim country, it would be a strange topic, but not here. And for those of us who have turned to God, things are going to be okay. They might be tough here, but it won't be tough there. Someone recently asked me about hell, and I guess the implication was, why don't I say more about it? And I simply said, well, I'm not real sure, but I'm not going there, so I don't really care. And the truth of the matter is, I'm not going there. And I'm not going there because I know I have chosen to walk with God and He has forgiven me. And so whatever it's like, doesn't matter to me because I'm not going there. And I can rejoice in the banquet that's yet to come, and so can you. So I hope you have a great day. Great story here. Take a look and go back and look at it again in Luke chapter 16. If you have a need or a concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can, as fast as we can, to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with another story from the book of Luke that ends up this week.